Hello, I'm Ron Smith with Smith Aerospace Corporation, and I'm going to go over a tutorial on how to build a Loop Snorkel. It's a good product for scuba and freediving. It's different from the traditional snorkel in that it's got two tubes that go around each side of your head. The best benefit of this is that when you're not using the snorkel, it doesn't hang loose, but instead it just rests underneath your chin and the snorkel still stays well kept and out of the way. And when you're using the snorkel, the tubes nest in behind your head and it's a very clean and streamlined situation. Most of the discussion is going to involve how to build the mouthpiece, which is this piece right here. This is made with some fairly simple tools, and it comes from a plumbing fitting. So to do this job, one of the things that we'll need is this part right here. It's a plumbing fitting. You can buy this at a hardware store. This one came from Ace. This is a 3/4 inch T combination. You can see it has a barbed stem on the sides, and this is a female thread 3/4 inch piece, and this is what the mouthpiece is going to be made from. Other things that you'll need is some Tygon tubing. You want to find a tube that is sized appropriate, that it will fit inside of the T-fitting. Normally this is designed to have tubes slip over the outside, but this snorkel is designed to use a fairly small diameter tube. One of the advantages of it, by using the two tubes, and this is the main reason that I developed this system, is that I wanted to have a small diameter breathing tube. You can see how small those holes are. Those are small enough that when you purge the snorkel, it will create a laminar jet to eject the fluid from it, which leaves little to no water residue behind. So it's a very clean breathing snorkel and avoids problems with salt fog for long dives that create respiratory issues and makes your throat sore. So these tubes are small enough that it would be very difficult to breathe through if you only had one, so I added two tubes to get a reasonable breathing resistance and still have the laminar purge. So that is why the tube, you want to select a tube that can fit inside the T-fitting instead of over the outside. Tools, let's see, one other thing that I guess we'll need is this is Plumbers gasket. It's just a rubber strap, and this is what I'll make the snorkel keeper from, and might need some electrical tape also. For tools, of course, you want to have some safety goggles. So one of the main tools that you'll be using is a Dremel type tool, and this guy here throws a lot of debris straight in your face, so eye protection is important. You want a pair of good scissors or some cutting shears, and I won't actually be using this. I've got some other power tools that I'll use in supplement to speed things up. But a hacksaw to make some cuts to the mouthpiece. And this is a tool that's not really necessary. You can do everything with a Dremel if you need to, but this is a great tool. This is a 90-degree high-speed handheld sander. I've got a 2-inch sanding disc on this. And honestly, this is one of the most common power tools that I use in my shop. You can buy these fairly cheap. They're $20 or less. You can buy these at Harbor Freight. And you need an air compressor to run it. If you don't have an air compressor, then it's not a tool that you'd want to get. But anyways, something that's quite worthwhile to have. And just for the purposes of making the video, you'll probably see me wearing this on a lot of it, because this will be what will be showing you my perspective of getting the work done. Very quickly, just some of the other things that I build here. This is one of our products, the dol-fin X20 monofin. Is a very good product to have along with your snorkel. Very nice, comfortable, high-performance freediving monofin. And our soon to be released, very similar product. This is the Dol-fin X15. Comes from the X20 design, but this one is optimized for scuba diving. So we support scuba as well as freediving here. Okay, I'm going to start by making a few cuts. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the first couple barbs from these ends here to just shorten this overall tube up. I want to get it down to something under 3 inches roughly. And I'm also going to speed things up by making some cuts with a bandsaw here on the mouthpiece. This could all be done with a Dremel if you have the patience to sit there and do it. And these first cuts to cut the tubes off, this is what you would use the hacksaw for if you are doing this with hand tools. So I'm just going to turn this on and make a couple of quick cuts here. And that just gives me kind of a rough cut so that I don't have so much work to do with the Dremel tool. But like I said, this could be done, all these cuts could just be hogged out with a Dremel tool also. Okay, so I've made some rough cuts with a saw and got my mouthpiece down to something looking like this. And I'm going to take the Dremel tool and my sander, and you could do it all with a Dremel tool, but you'll see that it's a little bit easier with the sanding wheel. But I'll turn this into something looking more like this. So I'm going to form these into some bite buttons or whatever you want to call it to give you something so you can hold on to this with your teeth so it doesn't fall out of your mouth. Okay, so this is just basic sanding and carving. Okay, so I'm starting to get some nice mouthpiece buttons here formed, and what you want to do is periodically when you're working on this, start out with them a little bit on the large side, go rinse it off, and then put it in your mouth and see how it feels, and you'll get it customized to fit for you. But this is fairly close to what I have for this other mouthpiece, so it's probably just about there. Next step I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean up this outside. I'm going to switch over to my 90-degree handheld. It's a little bit easier for me to work with that, but I think you'll see that whatever I do with this could be done with this also. Now I'm just going to sand this outside down and clean it up a little bit. So you can see I'm just cleaning this up, taking all these barbs off. This button right here, I'll sand that off as well. Okay, so this is getting close to being done for this part here. I've been using fairly coarse 60 and 80 grit sanding paper to do the rough cutting and get it into shape. I'm going to switch over to 120 grit and do a little bit more sanding on this and clean it up. If you leave it too rough, the roughness can be irritating to your mouth a little bit, so it's nice to come in. You can come in with a finer sandpaper and just by hand clean this up a little bit too. Okay, so to truly be done, you want to try this out and make sure you've got your bite plates so that they feel even to you. You might come back and decide, you want to trim off a little bit more here or there, narrow things down a little bit, but that's basically done. And this mouthpiece isn't for me, so I'm not going to be the one trying it out. But normally that would be part of the process. Try it out, make sure everything feels right, clean it up, trim it down, make sure you get all the dimensions proper. But for now, I'll assume that this is done, and we'll move on to completing the rest of the snorkel, okay? Okay, so we've got our mouthpiece formed. To build the rest of the snorkel is actually quite easy. I'm just going to take the Tygon tubing here. I think I've got about 3 feet of it roughly. I'm just going to cut this into 2 pieces, and I'll start out with them being a little bit long. They're probably going to end up being somewhere around 16 to 18 inches. Cutting this in half will give me 2 18-inch pieces. Might be a little bit long, but it kind of depends on the swimmer. So size this up for the person who's going to be using it after the fact. Take a razor blade and slice through that. Now these tubes here are actually just a little bit on the small side originally. See how it fits now. Actually it feels pretty good. You want it to be just a little bit tight when it goes in. Anyways, I've always avoided gluing these into the mouthpiece because I find that I like to have the mouthpiece be able to twist. If your fit is a little bit loose, You can take some electrical tape and wrap it around the ends of the tube to build up the thickness and still be able to get the rotational motion. Last step is to build the snorkel keepers, and that's what I use this Plumbers gasket material for. And basically, quite simply, I just take this and cut a little strip off. Like so. Kind of round off the edges. Just kind of round those off like so. The slightly more difficult part is then folding over an edge like that. And cutting in. To form a hole. Do that on both ends. Now I've got a little snorkel keeper that can slide over the tube. And so the way this will go together, like what you can see here, you put one on each side, and those will each go around the mask strap, and then we'll need a third one that'll go on the top of the snorkel to hold these together. You can experiment with some other possibilities, Velcro straps maybe. I've considered before building a plate back here that would hold all this in alignment. That's the basics of it. So all that needs to be done now is I'll just make 2 more of these snorkel keepers, and this snorkel will be done. So when this goes together, to get your tubes angled, this always comes on a spool, so the tube has a natural curvature to it. What you want to do is align this so that the natural curvature of the tube will tend to want to bring this back up behind your head. So you can see this tube's a bit on the long side for me. It'll probably take about 2.5 inches off of each side. You want this so that it sits underneath your chin, and when you take it out, and has the right length when you bring it up to put it in your mouth and have the tubes cut off. So it sits right about the top of your head. So you can see for me, tubes are a little bit on the long side. But snorkel keeper that goes on top that holds that together. So aside from sizing it for the person that's going to be using it, this snorkel would basically be done. And that is your Loop Snorkel product. So thanks for watching our tutorial, and please go to our website and check out some of our other monofin products. Our website is smithaerospace.us. And this is the X15 that we'll be coming out with soon for scuba diving. And so this has the fin tips deployed. This fin folds up like that and can go into a suitcase for traveling. It's a lot like having a diver propulsion vehicle when it comes to scuba diving, except that it's hands-free, and this weighs just over 4 pounds. This fin is, with these shoes on here, size 43 shoes, comes in at 4.3 pounds versus roughly 30 to 35 is typical for diver propulsion vehicles. And this is going to be about $890 for this fin, whereas your typical diver propulsion vehicle comes in the $2,500 to $3,500 range. So a great alternative for scuba diving when speed and range is of a necessity. So this is what the final product will look like. This is the Loop Snorkel that I have used during both of the World Championships that I went to. So it's got a bit of wear and tear on it. Installed on an Aqualung sphere mask. And when it's all installed, you can see I've got the 3 snorkel keepers, 2 on the straps and then 1 that holds the tops together. And when this goes on, this comes down onto your chin. And so when you're diving, to keep your airway protected, you just let this hang underneath your chin, and it sits down here with your neck weight if you're wearing a neck weight. And stays very clean and out of the way. And when you use it, this comes up, goes into your mouth, and you can see how the tubes rest behind my head. It's a very clean design when you're swimming.